Steve Bannon was de campagneleider en ideoloog van Donald Trump. Een kortstondig, een van de machtigste adviseurs in het Witte Huis, totdat president Trump hem voor gek verklaarde en ontsloeg. Nu trekt Bannon door Europa, in zijn ogen het centrum van de populistische nationalistische opstand. In een exclusief interview spraken wij met Bannon over het opkomend populisme in Europa, de gespannen sfeer in de Verenigde Staten en de toekomst van president Trump. En natuurlijk ook over de verhitte relatie met de media. Dat allemaal straks, maar eerst, wie is Steve Bannon en waarom is hij zo controversieel?
Tonight, a look at the new man in charge of the Trump campaign. Steve Bannon is not your traditional political wonk.
Steve Bannon was the chairman of Breitbart News. Bannon calls it a platform for the alt-right. Bloomberg Businessweek called Bannon, quote, the most dangerous political operative in America.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business. Complicated.
Een jaar lang stond Steve Bannon zij aan zij met Donald Trump. Eerst als campagneleider en daarna als een van zijn belangrijkste adviseurs in het Witte Huis. In augustus vorig jaar kwam daar een eind aan en keerde hij voor korte tijd terug naar de plek waar hij vandaan kwam. De rechtspopulistische website Breitbart. Een rode draad door de carrière van Bannon en door die van Trump is dat ze door politieke tegenstanders en in de media worden beschuldigd van racisme of het flirten daarmee.
When I first came on the campaign, Trump is like 12 or 16 points down. Hillary Clinton immediately went and attacked me, right? And attacked Breitbart, white nationalists, white supremacists. And I'm sitting there laughing. This is so far from the truth. But the most important thing, if they're going to play the identity politics game, you're going to lose. Because if you're not focused on economic nationalism, if you're not focused on the jobs and the economy, if you're not focused on that, okay, you're going to lose. And
but so Bernie Sanders focuses on economic nationalism, but he doesn't retweet white nationalists as President Trump has done.
Mr. President, why have you been retweeting anti-Muslim videos?
The 3 videos were originally posted by a tiny anti-Islam ultra-nationalist party called Britain First.
He just retweeted the Twitter user White Genocide, someone who he's retweeted before.
I don't believe President Trump has retweeted white nationalists at all.
He has. I mean,
well, I think you're wrong about that.
It's on his Twitter feed.
What Bernie Sanders will not do, Bernie Sanders fought a pillow fight. Bernie Sanders had every tool at his disposal to take on the Clintons, on their corruption, on the illegality. What Bernie Sanders refused to do, and what the Democratic Party populist left is still refusing to do, is address the question of immigration. Okay? Remember, mass illegal immigration is what the Chamber of Commerce wants and what Wall Street wants, to suppress the wages of the working class.
And it's going up for the past few months. Illegal immigration has been going up.
The people that are most hurt by illegal immigration are the black and Hispanic working class. So that's the way to stop it.
But I've heard him say that illegal immigration is going down. That's not the case. It's been rising for months now.
Well, no, but that's what he went to. Hang over a second. That's exactly why he went to catch and release.
I know.
Why are you so obsessed? Here's the thing.
I'm not obsessed.
No. You're absolutely. You act like a prosecutor with President Trump. You never did that with Obama. This is why you have. This is why you have zero credibility. This is why you have zero credibility.
But you keep attacking me when I say something that's factually true.
No, because
he says that illegal immigration is going down.
All you do is go back and try to pick one little thing to try to build your case.
It's the President of the United States. Shouldn't he be factual and above, being held to a higher standard than you and me when it comes to spreading lies?
He doesn't spread lies.
Okay.
And you should be ashamed of yourself for saying that.
Why?
I resent you saying, you sit there and say he spreads lies. He does not spread lies.
Spreads lies.
He does what?
He spreads lies.
You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed. You
come
here with no facts.
The inauguration crowd, was that bigger than under Obama?
I think what he said and what Sean Spicer said, if you look at the totality, if you look at the totality of everything that happened that day, he was making the point that he had a bigger audience than President Obama. Okay, and by the way, you can agree with him or not agree with him, but to go back and see everything this guy's accomplished in the last year, this is why the Democratic Party has leaned on the opposition party media. Okay, the guys in Brussels have leaned on you guys for years, and it's been a total and complete rejection.
Ja, Eelco, je bent maanden bezig geweest om deze man te spreken te krijgen. Nu gelukt.
Ja.
Beetje stekelig.
Beetje wel, hè?
En deze man richt zich nu vooral op Europa, hè?
Ja, het afgelopen jaar is hij heel veel in Europa geweest. In Hongarije, in Italië, in Frankrijk bij het Front National. Hij heeft ook interesse om deze zomer, zegt hij, naar Nederland te komen om te kijken hoe het hier gaat. Zweden in september. Hij kijkt heel erg vooruit naar de Europese verkiezingen volgend jaar. Ja, en waarom? Hij zegt dat alles hier eigenlijk een half jaar of eerder gebeurd dan in de Verenigde Staten. Hij zegt, jullie hadden Berlusconi ver voor Trump. Jullie hadden de Brexit ook een half jaar voor Trump. Amerika gaat over 4 maanden naar de stembus voor de congresverkiezingen. En hij zegt, ik ga maar eens in Europa kijken om te zien wat er over een aantal maanden ook bij ons gebeurt. En hij kijkt in het bijzonder naar Italië, de nieuwe regering daar. Een linkspopulistische beweging en een rechtspopulistische beweging samen in een regering. Hij kijkt niet meer heel erg naar links en rechts. Hij kijkt vooral naar anti-establishment bewegingen. Zoals eigenlijk ook natuurlijk Trump.
Laten we kijken.
The most important part of that, I think, was the fact that you had basically a center-right or right-wing, populist nationalist, and you had a kind of a left-wing populist nationalist to put aside the economic differences. They've always, kept the left and the right separated, and they really put those aside, I think, to kind of merge themselves into a unity government. And I think that's why Italy is so important to watch. These are markets, and so what happens in Italy, what happens in Holland, what happens in Germany, it spreads, these things spread, and that's why it's going to be very important for the 2018 election in the United States. What's happening in Europe is vital to what's going to happen this fall.
We'll talk about this fall in a second. You mentioned Holland. You know Geert Wilders. He actually wrote a column for
very much
Breitbart. You may have heard of Thierry Baudet, who's leading another populist party, anti-EU, anti-migration. Have you spoken to either one of them, or have you been invited by either one?
Well,
I know. The past year.
Yeah, I know very well. So I've talked to him a lot. I was actually going to try to be at the rally he was at in the UK a couple of weeks ago. I just couldn't work it on my schedule.
Wilders, you mean?
Yeah, I hope to see him this summer. I'm a very big supporter of him. He's one of the most heroic people on the stage. So I think he was a hero, particularly when he came to the United States, and I had to see firsthand how he had to live with the security threats he had with him.
And we love the European Union. We love the countries of the European Union. But the European Union, of course, was set up to take advantage of the United States.
Do you agree with that? Because it seems patently wrong.
Well, I think first off, the European project was started, I think, very differently than where it is today. Right?
But was it designed to harm America?
But hang on a second. So I think that's what it devolved into. I don't know if the EU was made to, quote unquote, harm America. I do think the EU was set up to somehow try to compete with the United States as an economic entity. I'm not against competition. I think
would you want to see it
fine.
Break up the EU?
I have no thoughts one way or the other. Yeah, no. By the way, it's just about what I do support is these populist nationalist movements in nations across the world, including obviously in the United States, but in Asia, in Europe, and throughout the world, Latin America, and throughout the world. So I think that is I'm for the little guy getting more control of his life, and so whatever direction.
And the EU is in the way of that.
Well, I think there's no doubt that the EU has been particularly in Brussels, has dictated to countries. That's where you've seen this revolt. I mean,
but it
the
also
little guy
provides European countries with security.
What security?
Well, I mean,
security,
one of the reasons the EU was founded I can finish as well. But one of the reasons the EU was built was also for common defense, common security, and that kind of stuff. Is it all bad?
Well, let's talk about the common security. Right now, you're telling me that you think NATO provides common security. One of the things is the United States just of NATO alone, the United States picks up 25% of just the organization.
No, that's a very fair point.
But hang on, but what Trump is saying is I'm looking for allies, not a protectorate. Europe has gotten into the situation, particularly Germany and some of these countries, of so depending on the United States, right, for its common defense. And the United States is an ally. We're a partner. We want to be a partner like in World War I and World War II, but a partner. What's unfair is that it's been put on President Trump. He's trying to break up Europe or trying to break up the EU. I don't think President Trump's trying to do anything like that. I think President Trump is actually saying, hey, we are allies. We are partners.
Well, he was pro-Brexit. Apparently he was telling, this has been reported, I haven't checked it, but apparently it was reported that he asked the French, why don't you get out of the EU? Is that all rhetoric? Because it sounds like somebody wanting to break up the EU.
Well, not to break up the EU. I think his support of Brexit was that if the UK citizens wanted to vote to exit the EU, he thought that was fine. If they wanted to stay in the EU, he was fine with that too. So remember, right now in the world, there's this huge, uproar about the international order. So the post-World War II, kind of liberal, rules-based international order has really been underwritten by the United States, essentially underwritten by the deplorables, right? The middle class and working class in the United States. And what you've seen
and
is...
he's not harming that international order.
Oh no, I think he's upending it. NATO and the European nations need to pick up more of the weight in Europe and other places. The countries around the South China Sea need to pick up more of the weight. In the Northwest Pacific, Korea and Japan. The United States is upside down everywhere on the trade deals, okay? And they're also underwriting financially and with their kids. Remember, it's the deplorables. And, Jurt Velders calls them, was it Yank and Hilda? He has
Henk and Ingrid.
Ingrid here in Holland, in the Netherlands, to talk about the average guy, the average man and woman, the average Joe, right? And that's what the deplorables are. And they right now underwrite financially with their tax dollars and their kids. It's their kids that are in Afghanistan. It's their kids on the ships in the South China Sea. It's their kids on the 38th parallel in Korea. And what the deplorables are saying is that, hey, look, we fought in World War II, World War I and World War II and the Cold War with our partners in NATO and in Europe. We're committed to Europe. We're not going to back off, but we want partners. What President Trump is saying is you're not a protectorate. So let's start acting like an ally.
Ja, het America First beleid uitgelegd door Steve Bannon. Hij zal dus de komende maanden de nodige tijd in Europa doorbrengen, maar richt zich toch vooral op Amerika. Want daar vinden over 4 maanden de tussentijdse congresverkiezingen plaats. Die worden, zegt Bannon, een referendum over Trump.
This is Trump's first re-elect, is the way I see it. This is not a midterm election. You can tell right now, you've been out in the field here in the United States, the intensity is already starting to build, okay? And you can see it from the left and the right. After Labor Day, in the run-up to this election, is going to have the same intensity of the 2016 presidential election. Right now, you have on the left, they're incredibly motivated. We have in this country this Me Too movement that's really metastasized into what's the Time's Up movement. It's this fight against the patriarchy that the...
You've talked about that before. You seem fascinated by this Time's Up movement.
Yes.
How is that? And how does it relate to your movement?
Well, because I consider the populist nationalist movement kind of like the American Revolution. It's about control and center of gravity where voting is coming from. The Time's Up movement, which is really a head-on confrontation with the structure of our society, the power dynamics of the patriarchy, is really going against 10,000 years of recorded history. It's more like it's like the French Revolution. I think it's, whether it's good or bad, to me, I think it's exciting to watch. And as a guy that's involved in politics, and I keep telling people here, it's one of the most powerful movements that come along in decades, if not the most powerful movement. I think it's going to rival our populist nationalist movement. You can see it gaining, I think, strength every day. I think people
are not... Is it a zero-sum game? It's either the white middle-aged men or the Time's Up movement?
Well, it's not white middle-aged men. Remember, the populist movement, the populist nationalist movement is going to be made up of working-class people from all across, men and women.
No, I agree. You're right.
And so, no, but I do think that the Time's Up movement, and it's much deeper than the Me Too. It's just not about sexual harassment. This Time's Up movement is a fundamental, I think, look at the power dynamics and what I call the patriarchy. And I think it's very, very powerful. It's going to be very powerful. In the United States, that's one of the things that's galvanizing so much grassroots energy on the left.
Iedereen in Washington verwacht een hete zomer, met mogelijk de ontknoping van het Ruslandonderzoek en sowieso een verkiezingscampagne die onder hoogspanning staat. De situatie aan de grens, waarbij de regering Trump kinderen van illegale migranten liet scheiden van hun ouders, heeft de verhoudingen tussen voor- en tegenstanders van Trump meer dan ooit op scherp gezet. Demonstranten duiken op voor het huis van kabinetsleden en in de restaurants waar ze komen. Een bekend democratisch congreslid riep haar aanhang op om hier vooral mee door te gaan.
If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them.
She's an elected official. She's one of the senior members of Democratic leadership. That what happened to these cabinet officials is fully justified. So I think you're entering very dangerous territory. The other thing they're saying is that they're whining already, that the country's gerrymandered and that's why they can't take Congress. That the states are gerrymandered and that's why the Electoral College was created, they're saying, by white slave owners to have this kind of white privilege going forward. They're going to continue to whine, I think heat themselves up. So the left is absolutely in full meltdown. And that's only going to increase, I think, over the summer. I would tell your audience, stand by. If you thought 16 was intense, the 18 election is going to be the equivalent of the 16 presidential election or even bigger and it's going to be 5 times more intense.
You seem excited.
I am excited. I love this stuff.
I think there's blame on both sides. A few days ago, I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are. They are the enemy of the people. I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
But aren't you partly responsible for the heated atmosphere in the country right now? Because it seems hard to believe that that's all to be blamed on the left. I'm just wondering if...
Well, the rhetoric is the Democrats. Look at this weekend. Look at what the Democrats are doing.
But what about your rhetoric? Breitbart's rhetoric, Trump's rhetoric?
What's the problem? Tell me what's the problem with the rhetoric?
For instance, I think
calling it the opposition party media is that?
No, it's not really about the media. But I mean, the tensions.
Are you going to sit here and whine
high.
about? Is this what
I'm
you're
not
going to
whining.
do? You are whining. You're going to whine about Breitbart? If the Democrats have a sweeping victory and take the House of Representatives and win 30 or 35 or 40 seats, the first thing they're going to do is impeach Trump. And so the Trump voter, the deplorables, got to sit there and say, hey, if I support this guy, it's just not about writing a check, right? It's about going door to door and ringing a doorbell and telling your neighbor, hey, I believe in Donald Trump, and here's why I believe in it, and here's what his program is about on the economy, here's what it's about on national security, here's what it's about on immigration, and all the other issues. If people are not inspired to do that, the left and the Time's Up movement and the resistance, they're inspired. And I think it's healthy that they're inspired. That's what makes this so great. This is not a dictatorship. It's not some sort of authoritarian government. It's about people. To me, that's the great clash of democracy.
En dan ging het nog over de moeizame relatie van president Trump met de waarheid. Amerikaanse kranten hebben berekend dat Trump sinds zijn aantreden ruim 3000 leugens of onwaarheden heeft verteld. Maar Bannon bestrijdt dat.
Why is it always the opposition party media?
Because the Democratic Party is not really a full-throated opposition. It's the opposition party media that continually attacks Donald Trump, that continues to press Donald Trump, that continually...
Doesn't he continually attack the media? I mean, he tells 6-7 falsehoods every day.
Oh, absolutely incorrect.
How's that incorrect?
That's an opposition party. By the way, you never went after Obama. You never went after Clinton.
He didn't lie 7 times a day.
Excuse me?
Obama didn't lie 7 times a day. I mean, Trump's whole campaign is built on a lie, the birther movement. That's a lie.
Bijna 4 jaar voordat hij uiteindelijk president werd, flirte Donald Trump ook al met het Witte Huis. En in die periode zaait hij twijfel over de vraag of de president die er dan zit, Barack Obama, wel in Amerika is geboren.
You recently said about President Obama, I'm going to quote you, he grew up and nobody knew him. Nobody knows who he is until later in his life. The whole thing is very strange. What are you driving at there? Are you a birther, Donald?
Okay, let me just tell you. I was a really good student at the best school. I'm not like a smart guy, okay? They make these birthers into the worst idiots. Why doesn't he show his birth certificate?
Het is een complottheorie afkomstig uit de duistere krochten van het internet. Maar hoe vaker Trump erover begint, hoe meer hij klimt in de peilingen. Pas in 2016 geeft hij toe dat president Obama in Amerika geboren is. Op dat moment gaat het in de campagne weinig meer over Obama's geboortebewijs. Maar alleen al de suggestie dat de kwestie een rol heeft gespeeld in het succes van Trump maakt Bannon woedend.
His campaign was not born in the birther movement. This is absolutely.
But you agree that the birther thing is a lie, right?
You're the absolute perfect example of the opposition party media. Okay, that's completely, totally incorrect. His campaign was not built upon the birther movement.
You're saying that because this tactic works.
Stop. You just said an outright, blatant lie. That's a lie.
What is a lie?
His campaign was not built on the birther movement. I was there at the very beginning. His campaign is certainly not built on the birther movement.
But is it a lie that he lies a lot?
He absolutely does not lie a lot. Okay, this is why people don't trust you people. This is why you have zero credibility. You've taken on the responsibility to try to be the judge, jury, and executioner of Donald Trump. It's one of the reasons he's so popular. It's one of the reasons that he won over 300 electoral votes. It's one of the reasons that he is actually changing Europe, okay? Because of guys just like you. What you said, and I want to make sure you understand this, what you just said is a total and complete lie.
Okay, it was not built upon. If I said it was built upon the birther movement, that's a mistake. I think he got a lot of attention because of his birther remarks. Would that be a fair thing to say?
No, not a fair thing to say.
Zo, Bannon valt jou echt persoonlijk aan, zoals Trump dat eigenlijk ook altijd met de media doet.
Ja, wat je hier heel goed ziet is een beproefde tactiek. Die gebruiken Trump en Bannon en al die anderen eigenlijk al jaren. Het heeft zich ook bewezen in 2016. De journalist is de vijand. De vijand zelfs, hoorden we Trump zeggen, van het Amerikaanse volk. En zodra de journalist dan ze met een leugen confronteert, in dit geval over Obama, waar hij is geboren, dat heeft Trump jarenlang volgehouden dat dat niet in Amerika was, dan keren ze het om. Dan moet je als journalist ook voorzichtig zijn, want ze zoeken naar een gaatje of een onzorgvuldige formulering en daar schieten ze dan met een bazooka doorheen. Het is spel, dat weet Bannon ook, die weet heus wel hoe belangrijk die beweging is geweest voor het politieke succes van Trump. En na afloop, om een beetje te illustreren hoe dat gaat van dat interview. We waren klaar. Hij was dolgelukkig, sloeg zich op de knieën van de pret en sprak af om, vooral als hij weer in Europa was, nog een keer af te spreken. Dus het is, nu ben je er een keer onderdeel van, maar dit zie je heel veel gebeuren. Bannon zegt het wordt een hele hete zomer. Dat betekent ook dat we veel meer van dit soort aanvallen op de Amerikaanse media zullen zien.
Spannende tijden, dankjewel.
Zo is het. Ja.